Hello, and welcome to That Eurovision podcast, Eurovision with a Slice of Life. My name is Rosie, and we are currently recording on Sunday, the 13th of March. What that means is national final season has just finished. Everyone breathe a sigh of relief. Everyone get some sleep. And I am joined by four wonderful people from That Eurovision site here to have a bit of a decompression session, have a bit of a recap over the last 5 months now. We count the start of Isabelle back in November as the start of national finals actually happening. It's been 5 months. Get over it, as Robin Bengtsson would say. And yeah, who am I joined by? People, introduce yourselves.
I am Jazzi. I am doing very, very good. I'm very tired because I did the Festival Decompression article last night and that ended at stupid o'clock. So I'm very tired, but very happy to be able to talk about national final season. I was actually quite sad writing that article, knowing it was like the last national final of the season, because it's been a really fun national final season.
Angus here. I'm back. I'm relieved. Like let's start with that. I'm relieved it's over. Like it was long. There were some national final selections, just like the songs included that were choices. There were some results that were choices. The less said about, we'll get into it later. But overall, I've really enjoyed this. It's the first time that I've really followed, almost all national finals. There were just too many this year. Let's get it out there already. There were too many. I followed a lot of them more than I ever did. And it was a fun experience for the most part. And I definitely got some new personal favorites, new bands out of it. So that's always a good thing. Beyond that, just getting ready for everything that comes in between, like this sort of semi-lull period before Eurovision and Eurovision itself.
Hi, I'm Lewis, and I'm really quite relieved that national final season is over. It's been so fun just getting new songs, new controversies, new dramas every other day. And that's so much fun, but I feel now that it's all kind of wrapped up, taking a breath and starting to really get hyped for the show this year. Now that we've got a final, more or less almost a final list on what's going to be in the show, I'm starting to get really into the songs, and also, but still have some feelings about how the national finals went down. So I'm looking forward to discussing it with everybody.
Hello, this is Isabelle here. I'm just sort of giggling to myself. I think that listeners, you're going to get some pretty raw opinions on this, because we're all quite exhausted and strung out. Many of us were, as Jazzi sort of alluded to earlier, many of us were covering national finals like right up until last night and this morning, with the results and all of that. I'm really sad it's over. I'm with Jazzi. It's a bittersweet moment that obviously it's very exciting that we're getting ever closer to Eurovision itself. But this was my first ever year following any national finals. If you're surprised, shocked, appalled, outraged at that statement, you can find out more about my general approach, what my approach to Eurovision and the national finals has been on my Meet the Teams. Meet the Teams? We are but one team. My Meet the Team article on That Eurovision site. We'll kind of explain a little bit more about that, but basically my approach has always been go into Eurovision grand final cold and then back read essentially. So it's a bit of a controversial one for somebody who's as into Eurovision as we all are. Obviously I've done an about turn. My approach is, I've thrown that old approach out the window. I don't know what I was thinking. I've been missing out on so much. I've had an absolute blast. I think I watched 7 or 8 of the national finals, most of them end to end. And I'm like strung out, exhausted, and sad that it's over. But like Angus, really like pleased to have found some new favorite acts, which we'll be talking about shortly.
I feel like it says a lot that I sort of so much of my life has been put on hold that as soon as Melody Festivalen finished last night and I'd finished all my like article duties and things like that, Lewis and I immediately sprinted off to the cinema for a late night showing of Nightmare Alley, because we also try and watch all the Oscar films at this point of the year. So I was just like, okay, now we've got 2 weeks to watch 5 feature-length films. So it's just like, it feels like my life is back, but at the same time, just so much of my sort of time and energy has been devoted to following everything that's been going on. There's no way I've managed to keep up with so many national finals. Last year, I was sort of just about able to keep up with them, but with so many internal selections last year, there really weren't quite as many of them. Whereas this year, it's suddenly like, it's like national finals like rabbits, like they just keep appearing. I don't know, my metaphors got very mixed up just then, but there was just like an explosion of national finals. We even got national finals coming back that we hadn't seen for 5 or 6 years, like the Late Late Show and Eurosong in Ireland. And Benidorm Fest, like countries introducing entirely new national final selections, as well as sort of all your old favorites, your San Remos, your Melody Festivalens, all of them. So the first sort of big question I wanted to ask everyone, aside from the one I've already asked, is what are your sort of standout songs this season? From every national final, what are the songs that have really stuck with you, have kept going on in your playlists, and that you've just really fallen in love with and discovered this season?
I kind of have two. They're not really from like national finals you'd expect me to like go for. Because the one that I definitely say is my favorite of the national final season is from San Remo, and I've not usually been too hyped on San Remo, but I definitely was this year. I'll probably mention it later on in the podcast as well, actually. That my favorite national final song this year was Fafale by San Giovanni. I absolutely adore like everything about that song. Is like just a fun, up-tempo, contemporary song. I requested it for Manchester Calling, but they said no. And which wasn't a surprise because it's either Melfest or Eurovision. They don't tend to play that many San Remo songs, but we are going to try and get some San Remo music at Manchester Calling in July, and I'm going to try again. My other favourite song from this Eurovision season only came out a couple of weeks ago because Melody Festivalen don't release their songs until after the semi-finals. So it only came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that is Clara Hammerstrom's Run to the Hills. I mentioned this in the chats of like in the last few days when I was watching the jury final. I really wanted it to win. It was definitely my favorite song in Melody Festivalen, and it's just like, if you don't know me, I'm a football fan, so the backing track to that song I absolutely adore. And I really like the staging. It was like quite mythical and quite mysterious, but it's still a song you can dance to. And I think I will definitely be requesting that at the next Manchester Calling because it's such a bop.
I mean, there were quite a few. I mean, my favorite and the one that has had the heaviest rotation and the band I've now also like really dug into their discography is Tanchugueiras. Like Terra was just, I mean, that would have been my second favorite Eurovision song of all time. Like immediately, I just knew immediately it would have been my second favorite ever, and then it didn't go to Eurovision. But hey, now I can just enjoy it for what it is, so that's a good thing. In Estonia, that feels like a long time ago that started, right? We had, I mean, there were some like actually pretty good songs, but Little Girl by Marilyn Malk is like the one that really I've come back to listen to. In the Czech Republic, I've interviewed them, so that might have helped, but the Valentine's Stay or Go was just like this fun indie thing that I just really enjoy, like that can always get put on. And I'm just going through keep listing off songs for a short minute. I'm not going to talk about them too long, don't worry. In Lithuania, one of the first victims of national final season, really, considering how early it was, The Devil Lives in Spain by Cosmic Bride. Like, that went out in the quarterfinals. And I mean, how few televotes did that get? I still don't understand how or why that was. Whew. In Latvia, I live tweeted Rich Itch, which ended up like finishing like 6th, I believe, overall. But that was just such a fun performance and just fun bob. And then, I mean, I have also, I don't want to shout them out too much because they are going to Eurovision, but in my top 5 for now, you know, rating subject to change, there are 3 songs that went through national finals, and those are Slovenia's Disco by LPS, Sentimentai by Monica Liu, so Lithuania, and Constracta's Incorporesano for Serbia. So yeah, those are really my big standouts. But I mean, there were plenty of other bands like Reykjavik in Iceland I already knew beforehand, and they were great. And there are plenty of other songs I also really loved.
There were more than I expected that I just fell in love with this year in the national finals. I suppose there were so many songs to choose from. Some of them were going to hit, but even so, I'm not really somebody who really enjoys ballads much. I think as far as sort of typical Eurovision genres, I like the rock, I like the novelty entries, I like the something with a bit of pace to it. So it was a real surprise for me that one of my favorite songs from the national final was right at the start, from the first national final I saw, the second course final of EST Lau, Silver Julicio with Elu Yarbes, I think it's pronounced.
Elu Rupes.
Elu Rupes, yes. Thinking of something else there, I'll get to it. But yeah, we've got so many sort of beautiful, sort of tragic, emotional male ballads this year. But honestly, I haven't heard one that's topped Elu Rupes for me. Hearing it, I just felt the emotion in it. It was one of those ballads that really connected with me, and I was entranced. And then it immediately lost in the quarterfinal, and we never heard it ever again. So that was sort of a tone setter for national final season. But still, it's such a wonderful song, and I'm so glad I heard it. The second song I'd say that I really fell in love with this year was the one I was thinking of just there, Kumayaba from UMK. It's such, I don't know how to describe it. It's got the emotion of a ballad and more tempo, more energy to it, and it's such a, I don't know, it's a really interesting song, a really interesting sort of subject that you don't hear about in a lot of other songs, and I loved how they did it, and I thought it was incredible. I thought basically all of UMK was incredible, minus a couple of songs, but well. And I also just want to highlight we're not short of fun joke entries this year, but I do want to highlight in Norway, Dance Like a Pink Flamingo. I went into it sort of not being particularly excited for it. It seemed that the whole concept of it seemed sort of weird. I wasn't sure how to feel about it, and then just watching it, they were just so honestly enthusiastic about it. Just no sense of irony or people just have it. This is just them having fun on stage, and I loved that. I thought it was such a fun, energetic song, and it's certainly not the best joke entry this year. I mean, even in Norway, I think they picked the right one out of those. But still, I'd like to. I thought it was a really fun song.
I feel like an overexcited puppy. Possibly this is the novelty of, discovering the riches of national finals, speaking. But, I like to think that I know pretty immediately, if something's something that I love. And if it's going to be something that I love for a long time. I say this all in defense of I do tend to kind of prefer newer releases to older ones in the context of Eurovision. And it seems that, the national final season this year it's given me a bunch of, in my opinion, the best songs I've heard for the last couple of years, only some of which actually won. So, there was me avoiding all national finals thinking, oh my goodness, if Eurovision is already full of like stuff that I'm not super into, which it is every year, there's a lot that I just wish, I wish wasn't there, then surely the national finals must be even worse. And that's true to a certain extent. I think my first live tweet experience was actually Pabandomishnayo, the Lithuanian national final, and one of the semi-finals, I think, was my first live tweet experience. And I remember thinking, like, wow, okay, there's a lot of less than ideal stuff here. This is chaos. What a mess, I think, was my kind of like prevalent thought. But actually, that experience gave me one of my favorite songs of the year, Ruta Loop's Call Me From the Cold, which did make it to the final, which, by the way, was much less of a mess. I actually thought the Pabandom final was exceptional quality for the most part. So, that threw my kind of, that my previous feeling was like thrown out the window immediately there. Which is just such a beautiful, eerie, haunting song. And it lived in my brain it still lives in my brain. It's very much one of my favorite things I've heard all year. So in the category of some of my favorite songs of this entire, year, that came from national finals, that didn't win the national finals, from Eurovision France, Seul by SOA, which was a hot favorite going in. I actually think it didn't get enough recognition. It was one of those things where I think maybe the fact that it was the favorite like led to a little bit of backlash, people sort of like trying to really, I don't know. I just saw a lot of criticism of the live performance, which was unwarranted. The live performance of it was exceptional. It's so uplifting. If you need like an uplifting, the refrain is literally, don't worry, you're not alone. If you need like an uplifting, if you need like two little friends in your corner, then I really recommend checking out Soa Seul. It's wonderful. It's a perfect pop song. Also from the French national final was Nuit Pauline by Pauline Chagne, which has become one of my absolute all-time favorite. I mean, I know it's a little bit early to call it an all-time favorite song, but I know what I like, and what I like is 80s synths, cinematic, sweeping, 80 synth numbers with a reference to rain and drama, and she's got all that, and the performance of it was also just exceptionally charismatic. When like John's Tears falls in love with you, that like you're onto something, I think, and she was his number one. And I can see why, right? Like sweeping cinematic like vocals, I just love that so much. Terra by Tanchugueiras has not come off the playlist since it aired. It's so good for the soul to hear other Spanish languages, right? Other kinds of Spanish music. Like we get so many melancholy ballads from Spain. They do it really well. There's a reason that we get a lot of it. There were a lot of really great uplifting up-tempo numbers this year too. Obviously an upbeat dancey number, one which if you haven't heard me wax lyrical about slow-mo, please do refer to the Spain podcast episode, which is our up on our Spotify, and has been for a while. There's a lot that's like really exciting about the fact that Chanel won with slow-mo, but Terra was the song that captured my heart in that final, and it's just good. I challenge you to listen to it and not just like I don't know, experience some kind of epiphany. It was my first year watching Sanremo, which was obviously, it had been so hyped. Everyone always talks about Sanremo, and I don't know how anybody watches all 5 nights end to end. I mean, frankly, I was exhausted watching just like the 3 that I did manage to catch. My favorites have again become some of the most played songs in this house. And they were like woefully underrated. I mean, especially Abi Cura di Te, which was one of the most beautiful, devastating, poetic pieces of music I have ever heard in my life. I mean, it came like so low in the rankings like every night, and I was so upset about it. The live performance of it was absolutely exquisite. And Inverno de Fiori, which did do better in the placings. That's given me a new favorite artist. Michele Bravi has become such a favorite. Like, his voice is just absolutely exquisite. This vulnerability in his voice, which I just love. And the final song just from last night, which didn't win. I mean, I was so convinced this was going to win that I added it to my top 50 Eurovision top 50 playlist. Okay, so I'm so sorry, everybody, if that's on me that Turn It Around didn't win, but Reykjavíkur Dætur with Turn It Around just I blew the competition out of the water, in my opinion. Unpopular opinion in sort of my peer groups, I actually love the song that won Söngvakeppnin. I thought Með hækkandi sól is a beautiful, really different but beautiful representative for Iceland. But listen, I spent like ever since Cyber's most recent album release, which sounds a lot, which is a lot softer than that kind of more kind of abrasive, risque stuff. I've been like gunning for Cyber at Eurovision. And obviously Reykjavíkur Dætur is where Cyber came from. Salka is still in Reykjavíkur Dætur, even though Joanna now isn't. I feel like I manifested Salka at Eurovision personally, you know. I'm just going to take credit for that. They say that they've been thinking about doing it. They've been thinking about doing it for years and years and never, you know, there are a lot of them. And so they never quite got around to it. I hope it's not the last we see of them at Söngvakeppnin. I hope it's not the last we see of Salka. I hope that Cyber comes to Söngvakeppnin. I have many hopes and dreams. Obviously last night's hopes and dreams were dashed. But I'm not going to stop playing Turkmenistan or Turn It Around. Like they're back to back on my playlist. I don't care. I'll listen to them on loop. Both of them it's just so good. Okay. And I'm just going to shout out the songs that did win, which I'm sure we'll be talking about, you know, a lot more in the coming weeks and months. But I can't not mention Fulen, because Fulen has become immediately one of my top 5 Eurovision songs of all time. And I don't see that changing. It's, again, so exciting to see Celtic representation from Western Europe, folk representation from Western Europe, folklore from Western Europe. It's something that I think is going to play super well, like across the board. I hope I'm not, you know, jinxing this, but it's just incredibly exciting to see. I hope that they do as well as they deserve. I'm so proud of France for voting for them, frankly, because Celtic culture, Celtic languages have really been downtrodden for a long time in parts of Western Europe. So I was really happy to see that. Achille Lauro with Stripper was just such a moment. I think that it was an iconic performance. Una Voce per San Marino is like the lowest budget possible, like, national final. And yet in that school hall or whatever, he managed to just tear it up. It was just a very cool gender fucky performance of a very cool gender fucky song. And I'm astonished that this little Christian fortress on a hill is like, yes, this bizarre oddity of a human person is going to represent us to the globe. I'm delighted by it. It just makes my heart sing. And then finally, I just have to shout out Constracta with Incorpore Sano, because it's, again, my mind is blown that Serbia I was like watching, I was watching France at the time, so I noted that it won, and I was like, wait, no, you're kidding, because it had been my favorite. I say obviously, I'm a performance artist, okay, and I immediately was like, this is performance art. I was stunned that Serbia voted it through, because there were other contenders that were much more in keeping with Serbia's signature, right? Like fabulous, powerful vocals, gorgeous visuals, all of that stuff. And then Constructor comes along and just like blows it all out the water. Like, what a plot twist from Serbia. And if you haven't read Rosie's absolutely brilliant article on novelty entries, please do. It's on that Eurovision site. It's I think it's called I'm a Joker. Yeah, it's called I'm a Joker. So please do go and look it up, because there's a whole Incorporisano is covered in that. There's a whole conversation that Rosie has, right, with the readership about whether or not it should, things like that should be considered novelty. That's like part of the, that is a question that is sort of answered a little bit, I suppose, in that article. But there's more about Incorporisano there. So please do go and look that up. That's enough. I've preached my little guts out. I'm stepping off my soapbox, but in case you couldn't tell, many faves, many faves from this national final season.
Thank you for the shout out. Yeah, I basically wrote that article because I was grumpy about the number of people I saw calling Incorporisano and also Trenulatul joke entries. I was like, I'm annoyed. I'm going to write an editorial. That's how I deal with my feelings, okay? Yeah, this was such an incredible national final season, and a lot of the results may not have gone the way I would have liked them to, but I have gotten some incredible music out of this. Music I never thought I'd hear, music I never thought I would experience, music I never knew was out there. And that's one of the whole joys of following Eurovision, but it's also one of the greater joys I found following national final season for the last 2 years. I'm almost certainly going to miss some songs out, and I'm also not going to mention winners in this because, again, like Isabelle said, we're going to be talking about them for weeks on end anyway. First one I want to mention, going right back to the beginning of the season, and probably one of my more niche songs. I've not seen anyone else aside from friend of the podcast AM talk about this. It's Tula Minisise from Iestilao. It crashed out in the quarterfinals, but it is, I can't stop listening to it. It is dark and sexy and ethereal, and Dramanda has the most incredible voice. I love her sort of deep, low sort of tone, and it's such a great song to listen to. I can't stop listening to it. I can't stop singing along to it. And I'm really sad we didn't even get to see this in the live shows, because I think it could have been really beautiful to stage. On a sort of similar note, different style of song, but another song I completely fell in love with because of the singer is Yazinki from ESCZ. What an incredible piece of music. Entirely a cappella, but the symphonic version that Judy's done as well, also complete art. I love it. And yeah, just something that's so beautiful, folkloric, ethereal, the way all the voices layer on top of each other. It's completely unlike anything else I've ever heard, and I completely fell in love with it. From UMK, I want to give a shout out to Ram Pam Pam by Bess. I am picky when it comes to bop songs. I am very picky. And Ram Pam Pam, if it had won, there was a long time when it would have been my winner of Eurovision this year. My current number one song, I love the song, but it's more because as well as that, it's also the song I kind of feel like I need right now in the world, which is Hope by Stefan. So that is currently my number one song. But Ram Pam Pam would probably have been my second. Fulan is currently my second place. Also incredible. Thank you, Isabelle, for really making me listen to that one again, because I completely fell in love with it the second time around. Other songs I want to mention, oh God. I'm going to back up the Terra love. How can I not? I'm also going to give some love. I'm just going to go to San Remo now. My last songs I want to talk about. I did an entire episode on why I love Italy so much. We did the Italy Stan Country episode, and I just raved about how much I love everything Italy sends to Eurovision. And since getting into San Remo, I love basically everything that San Remo does as well. And songs I want to mention from that, I'm going to go for Chimica by Di Tonella Piaggia and Rettore. What a banger. What a fantastic blend of voices. I honestly thought that this could possibly be my Il Farmacista of the year, which was my San Remo song that I fell in love with and no one else did. But no, I saw a lot of love for Chimica, and I'm so glad because it's great. I'm going to give some love to Dove Si Baila. Wasn't completely convinced by the live performance, but the studio track is fantastic. And it's one of those songs that I tend to see a lot from Italy, and is one of the reasons why I love them so much, which is a song that is often very sort of upbeat, but actually hides a lot of sort of social commentary and issues behind it. And Dove Si Baila talks a lot about the sort of migrant crises, like crises in inverted commas, like the crises that are forcing like refugees to come to countries and things like that. And again, it sort of developed this sort of new meaning even since San Remo, like 6 weeks ago, which is kind of unnerving, to be quite honest. That kind of segues onto the sort of the song I wanted to end on, but I'm actually going to mention one more first of all, which is Insuperabile by Ercomi. In the nicest way possible and in the best way possible, this sounds like a song from like Formula One. This is the song I could see backing up a sort of racing montage. And I say this in the best way possible. I love it. It's got such an attitude. I love the sort of guitar riffs to it. I just think they're fantastic. And it really gets me pumped. I love that about it. And okay, I'm going to give my love to a song that honestly, so it's by a band that were my national final winners of last season. And I think they have become my national final winners of this season, despite the fact that I was a little disappointed or a little bit unsure when I first heard the song. And the more I've listened to it, the more I'm in love with it. It's La Rappresentante da Lista with Ciao Ciao. I feel kind of weird listening to this at the moment because if you don't know the lyrics to this, it's basically about kind of flirting with a hot girl at the end of the world in a bar while the world is kind of crumbling around you and war is happening. And yeah, state of the world right now kind of makes that slightly unnerving listening, but there's something so delightfully and embracingly queer about the whole thing. And that's very much what La Rappresentante da Lista very much said that they wanted to portray. And I think that really comes across. I love all of the sort of the meaning hidden in the lyrics and the fact that I'm going to steal a phrase from Lewis now. And this is one of Lewis's favorite things. Lewis likes songs that have what he calls sarcastic happiness. And this song is the epitome of sarcastic happiness. I think it's the platonic form of sarcastic happiness in a way. I think it is such an ideal version of that sort of song. And so, yeah, I have so much love for this song. I am singing it constantly. I am humming it constantly. I'm doing the dance every time I do it as well. And I kind of feel weird about liking it at the moment. But at the same time, I think it taps into that sort of disillusionment and disenchantment, but also the sort of power of resistance that I really find quite powerful. Whew, after all that, I want to move on a little bit towards national finals as a concept. So I'm going to raise two questions to you, and I'm going to ask you to answer sort of both of them. First of all, what was your favourite national final this season in terms of the quality of the songs? And what was your favourite national final in terms of the format of how it was produced?
I think my favourite national final in terms of the quality of the songs would be San Remo. There's just so many that I enjoy, and I think you can tell it's not like a national final as such, like it's more of a contest for Italy's best artists. And obviously Italy's such a big country and has such a vast musical background. Like you get some like classical like music, like you get some like up-tempo music, gets like rock music. It just brings together like a lot of genres, the San Remo, and I think there'll always be something in it you can enjoy. Sorry, I don't know why I'm messing up pronunciation of like enjoy. But yeah, and I really enjoyed it. And there was so many that I really liked. And I guess in terms of a format, and I guess this kind of goes back to song quality, but I kind of like the way that they like do it, and that would be UMK. I like that UMK only have 7 songs, and they tend to go for like 7 high quality songs instead of like having 1 or 2 high quality songs and then having like 30 songs in their national final. And I think for a country like Finland, it really, really works. And I think that's like half the reason, like the last few years, it has been such a hyped national final among the Eurovision fans. And I think also the fact that they give the public a little bit more of the say than they give the jury, because I think there's been some quite contentious results about the jury getting too much of a say, like in Benidorm Fest and MESC. I think these are the 2 that are like the most obvious, where there was complaints that the jury got too much of a say, the public didn't get enough, where UMK is a bit more of the opposite. But I do agree that we need some semblance of a jury because the public don't always get it right. So like at least we have like some jury vote and then some televoting, which is worth more than the jury vote. And I kind of just want to keep this like short and sweet.
I mean, not to get too philosophical here, and as a philosophy major, that is difficult. It depends on a couple of factors. Like if we're talking quality of the song, do we mean like how competitive it is, how much I enjoy it, how much I think the end result reflects what is enjoyable and or good, which also are 2 different things. So that is a question you need to ask. And then also like, oh, do we mean by best like, oh, had the most good songs or the highest proportion of good songs? There's so many considerations to make. But I mean, the ones I'm most likely to get back to and just look through and like, oh, who were in that again? Or who do I want to listen to again? I mean, it is like Finland, Czech Republic, like those smaller ones do. Like, I think there's a thing, and trust me, there's an article coming on this for me probably. Juries already pre-select the songs anyway. So why do we have like 40-song national finals where juries can also still get a vote on top of that? Why can't they just select the 6 to 10 songs that they already like and then have the public have an entire or most of the vote about it? And I mean, similar considerations also come back into what was the best format. I mean, beyond, of course, do you have quarterfinals, semifinals? How do you like vote? Like, how do you filter that all in? But you also have like, are we looking for just the national final that brings out the most competitive song? In which case, I think someone like Czech Republic is the strongest for having an international vote component into it, which I really like. Or are we talking about the national final that best highlights local music? In which case it's between Essilao and San Remo, I think. Or are we just talking about the one I enjoyed the most, which probably was ESCZ, purely for the fact I didn't have to stay up late? I mean, there's a big bonus to that. Or whatever the mess of the German national final was. And if we could talk about the worst national finals, I mean, I can talk about that one at length. Who boy, I have so many thoughts and none of them good. No, I have to defend Bubsy. I have to defend Barbara Schoeneberger, but that's it. That's all I can say. But no, I think as such, the smaller national finals, they just really have this concentration of good songs, and just you can have the best 6 or 7 songs, but if you have 40 songs, those good songs are going to get drowned, in my view. And for the format, I mean, one final feels a bit short. Having 4 quarterfinals, 2 semifinals, and the final feels a bit long. Super finals are nonsense to me. I do not want duels. I do not like that in any way, shape, or form. I do like do not do ranked voting, especially for the public vote. So Benidorm changed that. Like either have it proportional in some respect, or do just a straight up. We look at the numbers like they do in Norway. So yeah, I think that is pretty much all I have to say. So yeah, ESCZ and like UMK is also a good one, but yeah, ESCZ was especially one I really enjoyed as both the format and the songs choices.
I know it might not be the most interesting podcast if we all just agree with each other, but honestly, I've got to agree with Angus. Like in terms of just looking at quality of songs first, the small national finals with just 6, 7, 8, just a nice high quality selection of songs. They just get it right. Every song in ESCZ and most songs in UMK, I absolutely love. And I'd say in terms of overall quality of songs, it has to be UMK for me. There are just so many songs in that. The vast majority of the songs, with a notable exception, I just love so much. I think in each of their respective genres, they would be some of the best in the competition. If any individual one of them got through, Thank God I'm an Atheist as a sort of thoughtful female ballad, or Ram Pam Pam is a really energetic power song, or it is just the quality of songs is so good. In terms of format, I really like the short national finals in terms of they do produce high quality songs, but I'm not sure they're best at sort of highlighting as Angus was talking about, highlighting local and national music. And I'm also not sure they're just as good shows. Like they produce brilliant music, but they're not sort of memorable. So I think my favorite national final in terms of format is kind of a weird one, because judged as a national final, as something to select a song for Eurovision, it is a terrible format. But as an event in its own right, it's absolutely magical. And that's San Remo. It's such a great event, and it's such a wonderful showcase of Italian music, and it's incredibly indulgent. They overrun every night, and they've got 5 nights of the same. What's it? Why would you do that? But it just highlights so much wonderful Italian music, and it shows such a love for the country. It feels because it's made for because it's something where the national final sort of elements of it is almost a secondary consideration. I just find it such a wonderful event, and like something, like nothing else in the national final category. In terms of actually selecting a song for Eurovision, I really don't know. I think ESD Lao is probably best, aside from how bloody long it took. I think 4 quarterfinals, 2 semis, and a final is a bit much.
Don't forget the super final.
Oh, I know, bloody super final. But it did showcase a lot of great music. The fact that one of my favorite songs is one that got eliminated in the first quarterfinal, it really does bring a lot of wonderful music to the attention of everybody who cares enough to follow it. But and I find a national final like that really rewarding.
Okay, Lewis, I'm gonna give you some drama. I'm gonna stir up the pot here. Oh, it's gonna be so boring if we all disagree, if we all agree. It's a little slip there. I kind of disagree with both Jazzi and Lewis there in terms of Sanremo. Bear in mind that my opinion is worth nothing. Sanremo is not for me. It's not even for Eurovision, is it? It's for the Italian. It's for the Italian. Aficionados of Italian culture in Italy, really, more than anything else. I understand that it's a festival, right? That's literally in the title, more so than a TV show or a competition. It's a festival of music. I think it's kind of terrible. I think it's kind of terrible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed, I enjoyed dipping in and out of it. There were a couple of nights that I watched the whole. I have to also specify that I think it happened during one of my night shifts, so like I had to get up early to catch Sanremo, and then like I had it playing in the background for like some nights about 4 or 5 hours while I was at work, so just to give you an idea of how long it went on every single night. And that, bearing in mind this year, the Italians on my feed, in my communities, this year was they were restrained this year. I mean, there was even one night where it finished before midnight. Can one imagine Sanremo finishing before midnight? Whereas last year, wasn't it the case that it was like 3 a.m. and there were still like several acts like sitting backstage, shivering because it was freezing cold, waiting to perform? So I mean, I obviously don't know how lucky I was this year, right, coming in to one of the most tight and restrained Sanremos of all time. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable. It's sprawling. It's like this monster, and it's fun. Like how terrible it is fun. And when I say terrible, I don't mean bad quality. I mean like it's just like conceptually dreadful. I have to say though, I was in defense of my like argument against Sanremo. I'm not actually arguing against Sanremo. Listen, it's not going to change. It nor should it, but in my defense, I was actually disappointed with the quality. I know that's a really controversial, yet brave thing to say, but I expected better quality and more consistent quality given what a high profile and important event it is in the Italian cultural calendar. I was like kind of astonished again and again by like how crap a lot of the acts were. Even the ones with good songs actually really disappointed me live. That said, I've already told you that I discovered 2 of my favorite songs of the year from it. I discovered one of my favorite artists of the year from it. So obviously there were incredible high points. I think the winner's wonderful deserved win. And there were some really Italian moments that were joyous. Gianni Morandi, right? Like on the first night, I was like, why is this happening? And to be honest, during that medley that like was frankly just too peppy for me, I was like, again, why is this happening? But by the last night, I was like, Gianni Morandi for Italy, let's go. Yes, put him on the Eurovision stage. So like, obviously there's some magic about Sanremo, despite the fact that I actually, obviously, I anticipate an intense love-hate relationship that will last decades. Let's put it that way. I'm just delighted to have kicked that off this year. In terms of my ideal format, I think it's not ideal, but the national final that comes closest to my ideal format is Söngvakeppnin. I think that I agree that 10 songs isn't really enough to get that kind of showcase feeling that you get from some of the more sprawling national finals. But I like the format very much, right? The releasing of the songs, well in advance. So you're kind of, and the releasing of the songs really in the context of that festival, of that competition. So you have the chance to, build some hype and to kind of get to know the artists as well behind them, which sort of makes up a little bit for the fact that it's only 10 songs. And in terms of the actual event on the night, Söngvakeppnin blows everybody else out of the water, I think. not just because it doesn't overrun, but that is part of it. It's like a good tight, the semi-final is like an hour and a half, the final is longer, as it should be. It still manages to build drama and tension because you've got that whittling down to the final two, and then there is that duel at the end, and that's really exciting. And you know, my blood pressure was through the roof last night. It was an exciting time. I think that the way that I agree that jury's getting more than 50% of the weighting in the scoring when we get down to things like semi-finals and finals isn't really okay. You know, like once you're down to that point, juries should get 50% at most. And in Sångvakeppningen, that's how it works. In fact, it does better than that, doesn't it? Like the semi-final votes, the semi-final results being entirely, qualifications to the final being entirely on a televote, I think is kind of fabulous. Because like you say, the juries have got them there already. So it's like, okay, people, now what do you think? The fact that the jury still gets that one wild card, great. You know, they still have a little bit of like, if there's something that really ought to be making it to the final, the juries do get to jump in there and go, actually, we really need this to go through. I like that, it's balanced. The fact that the juries do have a say in that initial round in the final, but then that the final decision, I'd say the only downside, and I haven't watched enough Sångvakeppningens to really kind of know whether I believe this or not, but I suppose the only downside potentially to the final vote being down to a televote between two acts is you're in danger. And I think that Reykjavik Data really definitely suffered from this year. You're in danger of a situation whereby you're voting for anyone but the act that you don't want to go through, which I think is just negative voting like that is never great. It's never a great way to send something through to Eurovision. I think that you're in danger of that. That's not going to be the case every year, is it? It's more so going to be the case in terms of polarizing acts. But yeah, my favorite format for sure. Similar, but I have some notes for it. I did enjoy that France did a sort of a similar thing, you know, 10 songs, released them in advance, got to know our artists ahead of time. The downside to Eurovision France, c'est vous qui décidez, was that it all happened on one night, which frankly was just a little bit, you know, it was before it begun, hadn't it, right? If you are one of the like 3 people that read my my article profiling the artists, the 10 songs, then I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I think I got that out like 2 hours before the show started, and like I had to, because at the end of the show, like nobody would ever hear from those other 9 acts again, you know. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but it was kind of a bittersweet thing whereby that was the show that I enjoyed the most. I had the best time watching Eurovision France. I have a bias, right? I was delighted to see my country putting on a great show. It was a great show. There were definitely downsides to it. There's some things that I would change. I didn't love the whole X Factor format with the judges, you know, giving their opinions in between, you know, the acts. Like, it just feels a little bit like it's too late now. Like, why have you got a song on stage and you're telling this artist to be more confident? Like, it's, you know, she's got, it was always the women, she's got to this point, you know, you just can we not just celebrate her? Like, she did a great job. So I didn't love that. I do enjoy hearing from the judges though, especially when they have like more rambling, poetic, dramatic things to say, André. Rather than just that, like, this is radio ready, or, you know, I don't know that the melody's strong enough. Like, why have you put it through this far? Also, you're racist. Let's move past that quickly. Again, if you were there for my live tweet, you'll know what I mean. If you weren't, then, you know, it's fine. It's in the past now. I hope that they make some changes to Eurovision France. The other national final that I enjoyed the most was Benidorm Festival, and it may be because it wasn't my first. My first was Pabandon, wasn't it? So it wasn't even that it was it was the first one I watched from end to end, was Benidorm Festival, and it was a blast. It was so good. I think the quality of the songs in Benidorm Festival might also be up there in my favorites. With France, the quality of France's songs I thought were also exceptional, like almost end to end, chef's kiss, wouldn't change a thing. I I feel like those are the three, Benidorm Festival, Eurovision France, and Söngvakeppnin, that I would watch again without a shadow of a doubt. Like, I'm sure I will end up watching at least part of Sanremo again. I would like to watch the whole thing, you know, if like scheduling allows in the future. But the ones that I will be like making a very deliberate effort to watch again are those three: Serbia's, France's, Iceland's. I do want to just shout out, did I say Serbia? I didn't mean that. Spain, France, Iceland. Spain, France, Iceland are my faves, okay? I want to shout out Serbia though, because really, as anyone would expect from the quality that Serbia always sends to Eurovision, that was also like a wonderful national final to watch. I was super impressed by the quality, so impressed but not surprised by the quality of Pesma all the way through. Also a good format, you know, 2 semi-finals and a final. That's what I want to see. 2 semis and a final. And actually Pesma got it right in terms of the like volume, the quantity of songs as well, I think. So there's that too. And those 4 that I've said were my faves, they also all were the best hosted. I mean, I say this, I didn't watch any of the Nordics other than Iceland. I missed a lot of national finals, so I'm not saying they're definitely the best hosted, best produced of all of the stuff that was out there. After all, I only caught about 8 national finals. You know, none of us can catch all of them. But in terms of the ones that I watched, I was super impressed by the hosting on all 4 of those. Less so France, actually. I had some issues with the French hosts, to be honest. But I think those issues are the issues that I have with like French like chat TV generally. We do love to hear ourselves talk in France. In case you haven't noticed from listening to this podcast, I'm gonna end it there. that's my little impression of national final format.
I love how we've had the discussion of we like small national final formats. We love UMK, we love ESCZ, completely ignoring like the Late Late Show and Zaevra song. Like, I feel like it's super important for a small national final to also be a diverse national final. And I think that's one of the things that UMK and ESCZ got really right. And I think it's something that the Late Late Show and Zèvres Song and Germany 12 points, Germany 12 points. I'm sorry, Angus, I have no idea what 12 is in German. I never learned.
They just called it Germany 12 points. Which
Germany 12 points.
I will get into national final names later as well.
Yeah, Germany 12 points, particularly that one, because I know that got a lot of criticism from the fans in terms of the fact that a lot of the songs were basically selected based on radio friendliness, which meant that there was very little diversity amongst the entries. I think it's super important that we have that diversity there in terms of genres. And I think I love UMK and ESCZ for many reasons, but I think that's one of the things they got really right. Every song was unique, every song was different. I can remember all of them. And I can't say the same about the other sort of smaller national final formats. I love a small national final. I love a compact national final. My ideal national final format is up to about 20 songs. Any more than that, and I just do not have the spoons to engage, to be quite honest, unless I really love you. ESD Laul I could kind of take because they did release the songs in groups of 10, so it was easier for me to process them. But honestly, I did not have the time to sit down and listen to 45 songs from Selection Nationale. I did not have the time to sit down and listen to 36 songs from Pabando Mișnoiu. And I love the songs I heard from them, but I really want to properly engage with your national final. And I know that national finals are not made for us as fans. National finals are made for individual countries. So most people who are watching a national final, for the most part, are going to be engaging just with one. So it's not going to be as much for them. It's a very small group of people who are going to be trying to engage with almost 30 shows on a year-by-year basis. And then each of those shows has on average like 20 songs, 15 to 20 songs. And suddenly you have hundreds of songs to try and process. And I don't have the brain space to do that. And it's one of the reasons why ESCZ in particular is one of my absolute favorite national final formats, because it has that sort of extemporaneous aspect of it. Like, you don't just have to tune in and watch and vote on that one night. You get that week to listen to songs, to process, to digest, to develop connections to these songs. And then you get to decide who you want to vote for. And it helps that I liked pretty much all of the songs this year, but I really appreciate having that time and having that space. I know it's something that a lot of fans have criticized, particularly in previous years, because you haven't had that live performance element, whereas this year we've had the live on tapes, which has helped a lot. But I really, really like having that time to sit with those songs. And from sort of an accessibility point of view as well, I really appreciate how accessible that is as a national final format. In terms of songs, again, it's got to be between ESCZ and UMK. I am also going to mention C'est vous qui décidez. Not really a dud song amongst that group either. And same thing I found with the competition last year as I did with this year. It really took me until the live shows to really get to love some of those songs. Before that, I sort of listen to them and I go, yeah, I quite enjoy this. That's fine. And then I see them live and they completely come to life. And so many songs from C'est vous qui décidez did that for me this year as well. So another really great sort of national final format. Awesome. I know this has been hinted at a little bit by some people, but one of the things I did want to bring up, obviously national final season has some fantastic aspects to it, but we've also seen in what we've been talking about over the last sort of couple of questions, not everything is necessarily hunky-dory, fine and dandy, doesn't necessarily work the way we want it to. So what do you think that broadcasters should take into next national final season if you were to give them some advice? And I say this both in terms of broadcasters, a general group, and also any specific broadcasters and national final formats that you want to bring up.
I've mentioned this in the comments to the people here, but I will mention it here now. Norway's Melody Grand Prix. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because like you get these like 5 like automatic qualifiers, and every single time 2 of those automatic qualifiers have made the super final, and it just renders like the whole like having like these heats and these duels and everything just utterly pointless. Like the songs are decent, like that, there's nothing wrong with the song quality in my opinion. That is not the issue. It is just the way like the national final is unnecessarily confusing. Like you have 2 like duels between like 4 artists, and then you have a gold duel in the final, and like a final gold duel in the heat, and then you have all the songs that don't qualify from the heats go to a second chance. And that's every single song, by the way. That's not just the songs that don't qualify from the gold duel. I just think conceptually it's a mess, and that's kind of, it upsets me in a way, because the song quality is not bad. These good songs just get let down by a format that I just think is horrendous. And I feel like when Norway was like doing national finals prior to this, like their national finals, they had like 10 songs. Those 10 songs were often quite good. It had a structured format that worked. So they tried to change it up for like, I think it was for an anniversary edition of Melody Grand Prix, and it just hasn't worked in my opinion. And I guess the one thing that I do want to mention is, in terms of all national finals, super finals are not necessary. Like, just have a vote between all the songs. We don't need a super final. We don't need things dragged out. And I guess this is one very picky thing. And I know that some fans, like, you need the recaps, but Festival de Cancio, RTP, I do not need 6 recaps in a semi-final. I didn't even count the amount of recaps there were last night, but they have the voting open for about an hour, and they have 6 recaps in that time, and 2 ad breaks. No. Your show could be at least half an hour shorter, and I like my sleep, so that's just me being picky. Like, there's nothing wrong with like your format. I like to sleep. No.
I mean, first to very quickly build on your Festival de Cancel point, Jazzi, it's worse for the final actually because you can vote beforehand. The Festival de Cancel voting lines are open before the show. Yeah, like that voting period is open for 3 years. Every Portuguese grandmother has got off their rocking chair, gone to their landline, called in, gone back. And we're still having like recaps and reruns. And look, I love it. I honestly, Festival de Cancel is an experience, especially one semi-final had the live tweet was great. Despite all my favorites going out, the less said about that, the better. But honestly, I get it, but I also don't. Now, I know we've racked a lot on juries already tonight, and let me repeat again, we don't need that many juries. Albania, San Marino, sweeties, I'm not talking about you. You're doing amazing. No, look, for some countries, it is difficult to set up a televote for whatever reason, and I get that. And then just like televising your national selection, even though I wouldn't call it a national final perhaps, but televising your internal selection isn't a bad way to build hype. But some countries, I mean, juries know too much. Now, 3 countries. I'm sorry, but France, Germany, and Poland, what are you doing? What are the titles for Eurovision selections? Eurovision France, c'est vous qui décidez. Short, please. I mean, Germany 12 points seems handable, except it's, of course, already a joke name. I mean, let's be honest, it's a joke name. But the full name is Germany 12 points, the Deutsche Vorentscheid für ESC, the German preliminary selection for Eurovision. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Just what's wrong with unser Lied für or unser Star für? Especially, you changed the format to 2013 again, which also didn't work because your regional voting wasn't region locked. Like, I, from the Netherlands, could vote. I'm sorry, NDR and ARD, but I could. Please take note. I could vote multiple times. I double checked. Like, what are we doing? Everybody has the same results again. What? Sorry, what are we doing? And then Poland, sweeties, honeys, darlings. First of all, can we put more? You had a great LED screen, sure, but it looked cheaper than San Marino, to be honest. The sound mixing was garbage. I'm sorry, I have no other words for it, but if you've listened to those live performances, they were great singers for the most part, but the sound mixing, no. And then, what was the title? To The Heart of Europe Beats Here, we choose a hit for Eurovision. I'm sorry, no. What is wrong with just calling it like sure, like we have supernovas and whatever, but like what's wrong with just calling it like the Polish national selection or just the Polish song festival or whatever? Just not. Oh, I just get so tired. I'm just so tired. I don't want to tweet all of that out. I just want to have a snazzy hashtag.
One of my favorite things that I've realized this season in terms of national final names is the Baltics in particular. Like, you've got Lithuania with Pabandom iš naujo, which means let's try again, basically. It's a fun, self-deprecating kind of name. And then you've got Latvia with Supernova. It sounds great. And then you've got Estonia with Iestilal, which translates as Estonia song. Estonia, mate.
At least it is what it says on the tin, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just like you've got your 2 neighbours with the most fun names of basically any national final. And then you've just got Estonia's song.
I guess like I just have to like touch on Lithuania. They named that national final after they didn't qualify in 2019. So I just kind of find that kind of funny and kind of cute that they're like, let's try again. Like, it just feels like such a sarcastic title after non-qualification in 2019, and I love it.
I'm just imagining the UK doing something like that, being like, we're fucked anyway. Eurovision UK, you decide. We're fucked anyway, whatever you choose, because the British public can't be trusted to vote for fucking anything.
Oh, don't, I mean, there's some countries that we should be very glad they don't hold national finals, and Netherlands and UK are on the top of that list. I mean, Germany needs to change up the rules. I'm sorry. I've said before, like I touched upon, the online voting was no. And I'm sorry, we've seen it year after year after year. Germans with landlines cannot be trusted. I do not know what it is, but every year their voting is, what? Who did you vote for? Why? Explain. And then no explanation. We finished last, unless it's Michael Schulte, or before that when ProSieben was actually involved and people, you know, at the broadcaster cared. Like Germany has a very passionate set of people that work like behind the scenes for Eurovision and like that do the YouTube channel and all that stuff. Poor Alina Stiegler, who had to do that press conference for the announcement of the artist, she looked not happy. I'm sorry, but she did not look impressed. Yeah, like, I mean, of course, it's also because I was salty because my winner didn't win, but please, Spain, do not do fully ranked voting. Like, for a televote, for a national final, it makes sense to not have just a clean ranked voting, but have genuine, what's the word? Like, proportional. Like, how you make proportional, whether it's Romania's weird decimal system, or whether you use, like, whatever Malta was doing, or anything else, like, I'm fine with it, but please do it proportional, because this, after you saw that Tanjugueras got 70% of the public vote, it did leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. But Germany, please just return to the Unser-Lied format. We don't need this. We did, like, no, but thank you.
I just want to bring up Australia decides in when Angus brought up proportional vote, and I almost think that is just as bad because Voyager also would have won had the vote not been proportional.
Also, sorry, very quick note, please, first of all, screen your artists better and help them more, because we had in Moldova, whether you want to call it the national final or not, artists had to cancel and like it was just a mess. Then we had Ukraine, which, I mean, a sad situation, but it could have been prevented. We didn't need the entire, like, somebody wins the national final again and then can't go again. And I mean, we had this, like, just Germany. Why Nico? Sorry that I keep harping on Germany, but it was genuinely hell on earth. Like, Nico Suave shouldn't have been allowed to go there. We had this problem in 2015 with Germany when they internally selected and had all of a sudden had to do a national final anyway. And then we selected one of that person's closest collaborators because reasons. And then they sent in a very bad song, and then they changed the lyrics to try to profit off the situation in Ukraine. Yikes. And okay, no, rant over. Like,
firstly, I just want to publicly rebuke Angus for even putting Eurovision France, c'est vous qui décidez in the same breath, in the same category as the Polish national final. At least Eurovision France could be, I mean, do you see how I made their name smaller?
Shortened it.
I shortened it, didn't I? I don't know how anybody shortens the beating heart of Europe that beats here. I'm sorry, I don't remember it. Wait, what was the second half? It's literally like, it's like a prose poem. It's like
we're choosing hits for Eurovision.
Fucking hell.
It's a joke title, just as Germany. I'm sorry. It's
a mission
joke, right?
statement. It's not a name, it's a mission statement. It's like it's not a name, it's an application, isn't it? Yeah, so I just had to, take offense vocally there at that. The c'est vous qui décidez is important. It's that whole thing. It's like Australia's you decide. This isn't on us if you mess it up. You've been ragging on us for not caring enough, so you decide. It's on you. The UK definitely has tried that in the past, hasn't it? With like, okay, we're doing badly, and so you try and do better. Go on, think you can do better, go for it. If it goes badly, it's on you. So that's how I see that. Really, it's a little bit, it's a little bit snarky, but it works. I think Eurovision France, c'est vous qui décidez works fine. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Maybe I'm biased because I speak French and I do not speak Polish, but I quite like Pabandom is no. It's like, let's try again. It's very Lithuanian Eurovision, isn't it? It's like, oh, God bless you. Just keep on trying. Keep on trying. This might sound like a small thing, but like my main note, having watched quite a few of the national finals and being confused every time we got to the voting, I wish that more national finals made it very clear through the course of the program exactly how the voting works. Some are very good at it. Some could have made it clearer, but not just that, but also, and I think most of them didn't actually make this clear. And I think it would really be great if they all did, especially for international viewers, but for everybody really. I'd love to see more of the national finals making it very clear from quite early on, maybe explaining a few times, not just how the voting is going to work, but how it's going to be presented, because you're left to guess whether you're hearing the winner or the least popular song. We saw some really wild kind of, formats for the announcements of the Benidorm Festival. Really, I think did a good job in terms of, I might be unpopular, but I think the way that they announced, the votes was quite good, because it maximized the drama, giving you bottom to top, but then leaving 2 at the end, or was it top to bottom, but then the top, not, I've already forgotten because it was so confusing. But the reason it was confusing was that they didn't explain how they were doing it. So it was, you were left to kind of figure it out for yourself. I think that the actual format itself was great actually for maximizing drama, but I wish that they'd explained in advance so that we weren't like left scrambling, chucking things into Google Translate to double check that we weren't getting things wrong and stuff like that. I guess that's my main note. Oh, one thing I did want to say, I wanted to just come back to, I know we're talking about how much we hate things about the national finals, but I wanted to come back and give Benidorm Festival and Eurovision France credit for, I was worried with both of them that the number of songs selected for the live portion of the selection was too low to really get a good amount of diversity in. But actually, I was wrong. It turned out that both of those national finals, more so than any of the others, I thought, did a great job of actually showcasing diversity, both, in terms of musical diversity, but also in terms of both Spain and France had artists that were, from other places with connections to France, or were from France, but originally from other places, which was lovely. It gave a really cool kind of picture of, more of a spread of the culture. Both had that Celtic element, so there was a real diversity in terms of representation of what it can look like to be a Spanish musician, what it can look like to be a French musician, which I thought was fabulous. I actually really want to shout them out for both of those. Shout out both of those festivals for doing that really well, despite having quite a small song selection.
The main thing I just sort of across broadcasters that I'd like to see in kind of all aspects is the same advice I'd give anyone sort of writing a presentation or doing an essay or whatever. Be concise and be clear, in everything from right from Angus's wonderful rant about names. We don't need beautiful sonnets detailing the everything Germany is going to bring to the world. We just want Germany song. I think Estonia's onto something. But and just qualifying this, I'm speaking on behalf of what I'd like to see, and sort of each of these finals are for the countries of the finals. They're not for the small group of mad people who try and keep up with everything. But as one of that small group of mad people, this is what I would like to see. And yeah, concise and clear, from names to format structures. I think ESC Loud just about gets away with it, because yes, it's a massively overblown sort of 4 course finals, 2 semis. It's an incredible amount of ESD Loud, but each individual show is just nice, straight to the point. It's an hour, 10 songs, bish bash bosh. Here's the winner at the end. We can all go home early, and it's really, it makes it really easy to watch and get invested in, and it's so much easier than so many other national finals. And yeah, right up to the song selections. Again, I think ESD Loud gets away with it, but Romania, why did you do that to us? And you look at UMK and ESCZ. That's all the songs we need. We need a short list of good songs that represent a diversity of genres.
On the subject of why did you do this to us, have we mentioned San Marino yet? So, here's the thing. I agree that like a large selection of songs can do wonders in terms of showcasing, you know, the artists of the region, the local music scene. That's not what was happening with San Marino, because like 90% of the artists were not even Sammarinese, and that's fine. I don't think that you have to be from the country to represent it or even to compete in a national final. But what's not happening is Una Voce per San Marino isn't showcasing, you know, local artists, is it? Like, that's not what's happening. It's not even necessarily showcasing artists of like San Marino and the like nearby regions. It's like just like showcasing anybody who wants to have a go. And it just, yeah, it felt like they were quite pleased by the fact that they would be able to fill up their TV scheduling if they just showed us all of the, you know, all of the stages of the jury selection, the internal selection, you know, as kind of as has been sort of hinted at before. We just didn't need to go through it, you know. It was, the thing is, it was a lot and it wasn't very well produced. Just like this terrible combination, really.
I do appreciate San Marino taking the hit and being sort of the international second chance for artists across the world. Like if you thought you would have done well in your national final if the format was different, or if the voting was great, just come along to San Marino, give it a go, see what you think.
I think the one thing I just want to say about San Marino is I feel like it's opened a door for any like San Remo artist that wants to go to Eurovision, but feels like they wouldn't get there because they wouldn't win San Remo. I feel it's opened a door for that, especially with his name's one of those I can't pronounce. Akil winning it as well. I think it's opened a door, and I think that's a really like good thing, because I think it'll allow more artists from Italy that may not necessarily get the chance to go. But yeah, some people would say that is a bad thing because it closes the door for some of San Marie's talent. So some would say it's a bad thing.
I sort of feel really conflicted on it, because on the one hand, yes, I believe that the national final should represent the country, and that San Marino going away from that is a problem. On the other hand, Akil Lauro is great, and it's a song. I honestly think Stripper is better than Domenica. I think giving him that second chance to show what he can do ended up being really good. I don't know if it's a one-off or if this is going to be something better in the future, but yeah, I'm still conflicted about it, but I can't argue with the results.
To be honest, having San Marino just get rid of all the andre chansen. So like Norway's sister chansen. Sweden basically still has it, even though they call it a semi-final this time around. Let's be honest, it wasn't different. Like, and all those duels and whatever, get rid of those and just make San Marino the European second chance with like, and then have them duel it out in a super final against the Sammarinese artist that went through a separate thing. Like, make it combine all the worst elements of national finals, and I think I would still absolutely love it, because it would also be the appropriate amount of madness.
Like, just after all the national finals end, have it on that Monday of the deadline and just say, right, on the Monday of the deadline, everyone that hasn't won their national final the door's open to represent San Marino. Let's see what would happen. It'd be funny. That'd be the dream.
In a Discord I'm in, there's an edit sticker of the San Marinese flag, except where it says Libertas under the crest, it says chaos. And I mean, that's basically it.
I just want to bring it back a bit. I did have a couple of other thoughts about specific national finals. I just wanted two things. Just following on about MGP, what the hell was going on there? I think the thing with watching national finals is one of the most painful things about it is getting massively invested in a song that ends up getting snatched away at the last minute and never gets its chance on the big stage. And it feels like MGP is maximized to bring that out. Like with the automatic qualifiers, like everything else is just an opportunity to get massively invested in a song that has no chance against the automatic qualifiers. It's such a weird format, and I don't know why they did it. I'm glad that Subwoolf are automatically qualified, I guess. I like the song, but as a national final, it's weird. And yeah, one final thing. I know I said generally be concise and clear. One exception to that, Sanremo. Just do Sanremo things. Like I agree, Isabelle, the song quality wasn't great this year. I think it was much better last year when everything overran till 3 a.m. and it was massively indulgent and it brought out the best of Italian music. So I say, go for that. I say, go all out. Go until the dawn. Go until 6 a.m. Go until the sunlight starts coming down the next day. Stop the show between the 10th and 11th songs for a feature-length skit of Amadeus singing karaoke. You know, just do you, Sanremo, because you are magical. You're torture to watch, but you're quite an experience.
It'll be like BBC News 24, except it's just Sanremo round the clock. You get non-stop Sanremo for 5 days straight. See how much you survive.
Ironically, it never actually starts.
Like, I feel like, again, talk about Sanremo and then Festival di Canfio. Like, at least with Sanremo, there's like chaos, there's fun when it overruns. Festival di Canfio overruns because they're trying to squeeze in 8 recaps of songs we have already heard throughout the show. Like, there's no organized. It's organized, but they still run over because they need to squeeze all those recaps in, and it's not fun. Like, that is torture. That is torture. Sanremo is not torture because at least we're having fun with it. And like, I'll probably be over Portugal in a week. Like, no, I don't know why it just no. Sorry, I think it's just very raw from last night.
Cool. I'm going to be quick. So Angus just says it's only fitting for a national final podcast to overrun, to be honest, which, yeah, we've been talking, but it's been fun. So I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to be quick. National final things we should change. MGP, get rid of the duels. They don't work. It's torture. Actually, yeah, that's basically the main sort of specific country one I had. Other one, big one for just any country. Please, like, keep a hold of your juries. Please, like, we've already mentioned it, be really careful about sort of how much power you give a very small number of people. I think I just looked it up. The Selection Nationale was 83% jury vote and 17% televote. What's the point in having a televote at all when the public has as much say as one person on the jury? It's mind-boggling to me. I'm very happy having juries. I think juries should be reasonably sized. I think the Sivuki Decide jury, 10 people, I think that's nice. I think that's a good number of people for a jury. And having it so that they only have sort of around about 50% at most is a nice little number, I think.
I think one exception to that is when countries have proven that they can't be trusted with a televote. Like, let's just take this away until you've proven you could be responsible with it. Like, like if Germany was 83% jury vote and 17% televote, maybe they might stand a chance.
Oh God, I'm just fearing who Germany would choose for a jury, and oh dear.
Like, to me, Norway, you can't be trusted with 100% televote. Like, I do not like that song. I don't. I do get that it's fun, and I guess that in the year of 2022, we need fun. I just really don't like it. I really don't.
I was just going to ask Jazzi why she hates fun. That's really all. I mean, no, I was also going to just mention that the Benidorm festival jury was like a really good example of too much power being given to too few people. But I feel like we've harped on that one a lot because it was such a kind of infamous result, wasn't it? But I think that it could have been, yes, like Angus's point about it being proportional rather than ranked voting, because there's such a difference between even just the first and the second positions there. But I do think that listen, there are allegations that it's rigged. If it's rigged, then there's nothing a bigger jury can do. But the fact that it was such a small jury, like half a dozen people is too much power to make a huge decision like that.
Amazing. We're going to be really quick. I want at most 1 or 2 very quick standout moments of the season. Go.
Okay, I'll go for one, and just because it was really, really funny. During the Australia Decides national final, somebody got fired because on the Twitter, they announced halfway through the act singing that the voting was closing in 15 minutes. And then they sent out another tweet saying voting closed. The voting had not closed, but they sent those tweets out an hour early. They accidentally scheduled them wrong, and it was just really funny. Twitter went crazy. They were like, no, this is rigged. This is rigged. No, 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 no. And it was quite funny because it was just after the song that won. It was just after he performed that they tweeted that voting closed, and it just caused absolute chaos on the timeline at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was just brilliant. Nothing else I can say.
I mean, especially now a lot of people have turned around on it and like are positive about it. The utter collapse on my Twitter timeline when Constructor won was so funny because people were so convinced that it would be either Sario or Zoria, and it was just like, no, she's going to win, and it was like, no, she is also going to win Eurovision, and then it was just like Constructor was just like, anyway, coming through. Also standout moment, both in a good way and a bad way. I mean, it was very funny to see, the most popular and the best organized national final, Melody Festival, and have a complete collapse in the online vote in the first round. And like Oscar Zia having to say like, oh, if this happens again, I'm going to quit as presenter, or even ask SVT to fight. Like it was a whole thing. It was a whole mess. I mean, so was the entire voting system of Melfest, but that's a different story. But it was so funny. And then everybody was like, oh my God, Cornelia Jacobs went through, and everybody was so happy because they were like, we never expected Sweden to vote for that. And then we're like, oh, but she's going to crash in the final, right? And then she won the final, and now she's going to Eurovision, and almost all the international Eurovision fans are very happy, and that just makes me happy.
I'd say my standout moment of the season is a bit of a meta moment. It was, on the day, at the time, the UMK results were coming out. We weren't actually. I was with Rosie and Jazzi at a club night in Manchester Calling, and just in the middle of that, getting the results like, wait, sorry, who? Are you really? Wait, where did 6th? What? That can't be right. It's just such a weird. And then just to top it all off, Ram Pam Pam came on, and it's just, well, at least one place in Europe recognizes a good song when it hears it. It was a really weird moment, but kind of a wonderful one. It's stuck with me.
Okay, I have Achille Lauro baptizing himself on stage at Sanremo, and then at both Sanremo and Una Voce per San Marino, just threatening to remove his trousers, just the constant threat of Achille Lauro completely naked on the stage. Bring it to Eurovision. Michel Bravi's costumes at Sanremo, just bringing an entire new meaning to the phrase flowers for everybody at Sanremo. Just loved that. I'm not sticking to 2, by the way. Sorry. It's going to be 5, and it's in ascending order of importance. The French people voting with me, right? The top 3, according to the French people, being my top 3. I mean, I feel I have historically been completely indifferent to France in Eurovision, and this year I just feel like I've come home, and it's so beautiful. And then finally, most important of all, the whole of Turn It Around, but specifically each member of Reykjavíkur Dætur being spat out just at different times by that space egg on the stage, just as you thought that you'd seen all of them. Nope, here comes another one kicking, literally and lyrically. The whole of that act was just so spectacular. But I would like to just top it off by highlighting the god tier lyrics of "Boom, baby, I'm the universe. If Karl Marx were living, he'd be my boyfriend. I eat rich men for breakfast." I can't. This is the English translation of the Icelandic verse that Salkan Blair, rapped, opening the song. We could have had this at Eurovision. Salkas, they love us alone, but they hate us together. So powerful, so radical. Honestly made my season.
We could have had Eating Rich Men versus Eating Pussy fighting it out for #1 at Eurovision. We could have had that.
You know what
we
I
could
mean?
have had that. I mean, also the Vespa on stage. I'm sorry, I just have to quick shout out to the Vespa and Elise Mraz, like just as a concept.
Instead of meat, I eat veggies and rich men. Oh God! Just imagine
that is canonically those are canonically the lyrics now. Thank you so much, Rosie. I'm taking that and I'm running with it.
Like, we've had so many mashups of Give That Wolf a Banana with Eat Your Salad, and imagine the 3-way mashup of Turn This Around, Give That Wolf a Banana, and Eat Your Salad. Imagine the chaos. I'm in love.
Cheering This Around 10-minute version from the vault.
Like, and I thought Habibli Meg Pargarn was an incredible mashup. It's a mashup of Vi Med Meg Pargarn from MGP last year and Habibi from Melody Festival a few years before. Anyway,
this is only tangentially Eurovision related, but it bears flagging up. So a member of one of my Discord servers mashed up Hattari's Engin Miskunn, which means no mercy, with Barbie Girl by Aqua the other day, giving us Miskunn Girl, which doesn't make grammatical sense, but it's surprisingly brilliant.
Please, can I have a link to this? Anyway, my moment of the season. Jazzi, I'm sorry, I know you don't like this song. And I understand why people don't like this song, but it was the winner's reprise of Give That Wolf a Banana, where all of the MGP participants from the final all came on stage, backed up Subwoofer, did the dance with them. It was iconic. It was incredible. Watching, like, Elsie Bay, who had gone and sang this heartfelt ballad, literally be like, before that wolf eats my grandma, give that wolf a banana. I'm just like, iconic. I love it. It's incredible. And I go back to that video on a regular basis for a dose of serotonin. Amazing. So we have discussed so many things about this year's national final format. Thank you so much if you've gotten to the end of this podcast. And your reward for getting to the end of this podcast is you are now able to vote for your favourite national final moments. My cat is on my keyboard. Caradwan, please, can you hear me? Amazing. Yes, sudden surprise cat. Okay, you now get to vote for your favourites in the national finals. We are introducing, once again, the TES National Final Awards. It's a bit longer than last year because we've had a lot more national finals, but we have multiple categories that you can vote for your favourite songs of the season in. You get to pick your favourite song in every national final that has taken place this season. You also get to vote for your favourite winner, your song of the season, the most surprising winner, and your meme or moment of the season. Head on over to that Eurovision site. It'll probably be linked in the post for this podcast. Please submit your votes. We are so excited to share these with you, and I'm sure we will be producing a podcast episode where we get to reveal all the winners, share our thoughts, and it's now that Eurovision site, c'est vous qui décidez. You get to decide. With that, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please follow us on all of our social media at That Euro Site and That Euro Podcast. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you have missed Tim giving us the most incredible Melody Festival and content. Go and watch it. He has got some fantastic stuff on there. And we'll be bringing you even more interviews, even more reaction videos, live streams, so many things that you could possibly want to listen to enjoy so much Eurovision content incoming. I really like to thank Jazzi, Angus, Lewis, and Isabelle for joining me, for all of your amazing content. And shall we all say goodbye?
Bye.
Cheers.